platform to practice, promote, preserve, and protect Hindu Dharma for students on campuses and young adults. So here at Georgia Tech, Hindu YUVA was started in 2010, and we have since then been organizing weekly meetings and events. So recently we had a yogathon in January, a Sanskrit workshop in February, and we also celebrate all festivals here on campus to bring the campus community together. So we celebrate that with the students as well as administration and also Georgia Tech Police Department. And we also have events like this one, a speaker on campus. Additionally, we are organizing a Hindu awareness series of events through this week and next week. So this is the very first event of our series, the historic Rama. And then we'll be having another event on Thursday, which is going to be a Langar in collaboration with the 6 students of Amena. And then next week on Wednesday, we'll be having a yoga and meditation event in collaboration with the meditation and yoga clubs here on campus. So that will be our Hindu awareness series. So now we'll have a stotra by Rama.
Shuklam Bharadharam Vishnum Shashivarnam Chaturbhujam Prasannavadanam Dhyayet Sarva Vignopashantayet.
Now I'd like to introduce Nilesh Okji. Nilesh Okji is an author, researcher, and speaker, and also a corporate consultant. He has a BS and MS in chemical engineering and an executive MBA from our neighbor, Emory. He has also published 3 books and writes extensively on Indian history. So the 3 books are When Did the Mahabharata War Happen?, The Mystery of Arundhati, and The Historic Rama, which is the title of our talk today. And so without further ado, I'd like to welcome Nilesh ji. Also, Ashwini ji, if you can join us, we'd like to light a diya, both of you, an electric diya. We didn't get permission from the fire marshal.
Okay, so she can do that.
Yeah, you can place it, yeah, just turn it on and place it.
Namaskar everyone. Greetings to everyone on the occasion of the New Year, to be specific, Hindu New Year. Okay, so greetings to everyone. The historic Rama, multidisciplinary scientific evidence exploration through space and time. That's what we have, right? We have a space and we have a time. If you think of Brahma, Vishnu and Mahesh, right? Brahma creates it, but to create something, he needs a space and he needs a time. The space is Vishnu. Vish means expansion. That's where the word Vishnu comes. And then Shiva is a cow, which is a time. So we'll take this journey of Rama through space and time. Now, if we have to prove in the ordinary language, in the language of science, there is no word proof. It's only collaboration. It's validation, it's falsification. Okay, there is no proof or disproof in science. But if you have to establish something, how do we do it? Like if something is recorded in chronicles, just because it's there in some text, do we know that it's true or false? I mean, we read many fiction books, right? Those are not actual things happening. But if you have to establish something, how do you do it? You show it possibly using something independent of that text, but that something can match with the text, and then you have a veracity. Samshaya, that's a Sanskrit word, it means doubt. Doubt is very important. Now there are two types of doubt. One is the doubt or the samshaya of a mind, and another one is a doubt of a buddhi or intellect. I'll just give you a quick example. What's the difference? How many of you are familiar with Ramayana? If you're not, that's fine, but just if you can quickly raise a hand. Okay. If you are, then you have definitely heard about Pushpak aeroplane. Yes? Okay. So when you hear of a Pushpak aeroplane, and I'm going to tell you how long ago was that, if I tell you, you're going to fall off your chair, so do hold on to them. Okay. Somebody's going to say, Pushpak aeroplane that far ago? Somebody says, oh, come on, give me a break, that's impossible. That's a doubt of a mind. Another person will say, now still, we don't know much about Pushpak Viman, almost nothing, other than the descriptions in Ramayana. Other person will say, surprising, interesting. Let me just see what is there about Pushpak Viman in the Ramayana. What about their description? Does that match something with what I know about the aeroplanes today? Can I get some insights about it? That is the doubt of a buddhi. At the end of the day, you may not be able to validate Pushpak Viman, Pushpak aeroplane, but you can still know a lot about it. Okay, so that's the samshaya. That's very much required. 4 personalities here. Okay, Socrates, Jesus, Sri Ram, Alexander. If I ask you, or if I just run into, or you run into a random individual and you ask, do you believe Socrates ever existed? What do you guys think? Socrates? How many of you think, yeah, he existed, right? What about Jesus? Yeah? Rama? I'll come to that maybe last, Now this is a favorable audience here. Yeah, Rama, yes. No, usually that's not the answer you get. Oh, Rama, yeah, that you mean the mythology or the Hare Krishnas and Hare Ramas, that's what usually you would hear. Alexander, how many of you think Alexander existed? Okay? But now if we are looking for independently provable evidence, now this is the ordinary language I'm using. In a scientific way, we'll say corroborative evidence, okay? Or a validation or something empirical that is there to prove it. You will be surprised to know, especially archaeology. Any archaeologists in the crowd? I'm going to have a good evening today, okay? Usually it's a nightmare, when the archaeologists are in the crowd. If there are archaeologists, immediately they will say there is no archaeological evidence for Ram, there is no archaeological evidence for Krishna. Actually, they are wrong, but they are stuck into a very narrow definition of archaeology. But even taking their definition of archaeology, I'm going to tell you the news. There is a zero evidence. You see the red. There is a zero evidence for Socrates, Jesus, or Alexander as far as the archaeology is concerned. Zero. Okay, so this is to provoke you, for a question-answer session. Zero evidence. Now, I'm not saying, therefore, Jesus did not exist, or Socrates did not exist, or Alexander did not exist. But what kind of evidence are we looking for that helps us? Zero archaeology evidence, okay? So when the archaeologists ask me that question, and I showed a slide like this, then they immediately change the goalpost. Okay? They just move to some other question. So we are going to actually look at what evidence we find for Rama in a very empirical scientific fashion. For some reason, if you analyze it logically and scientifically, this is true for many other individuals, the popular version consistently seems to be the opposite of the reality. Because many people depend on the news on the TV, news in the newspaper, some article, academics departments, South Asian departments, okay? So that's what they will tell you. So what's going on? Since Rama is way too ancient, and today we are going to find out how ancient is that. And there are many things written about Rama. So over time, when we look at the stories of Rama, and then we try to connect with our sensibility, what is acceptable to us in today's time, when that doesn't match, we say, come on, that cannot be it. We don't have to go that far. If you want to test your sensibilities, you just go 50 years back, 100 years back, and you say, what? That's what people did? That's how they behaved, and so on. So what has happened is, there is so much written about Rama. Have you heard of 300 Ramayana? There is an academic who has written 300 Ramayans. Now, he has not written 300 Ramayans, but actually what he's saying is true. That there are many Ramayans written. People were so much interested in the Ramayana. that they took the original Valmiki Ramayana and they tried to write their interpretation. Okay? So in that process, there are many things, many people have written. That sometimes creates these issues. But we have evidence, and that's what I'm going to share with you. So let's find out the Samshaya. If you have a Samshaya, the Rama existed or not, although we are going to address that. But if that's your main concern, then you came to the wrong lecture. Because I'm going to talk about the timing of Rama, so I'm going to assume for now that Rama existed. Okay, otherwise there is no point trying to find the time of Rama. But you can always ask the question afterwards. So in general, if you ask, did Rama exist? The typical answer, depending on the group of course, but will be of course. Did Rama really happen? Yes. Where did it happen? Directional sense, the approximate geography area is kind of defined. Sort of from North India all the way to South India, and then you have to go into the ocean somewhere, okay? Some controversies will happen there. I'll come back to the second last question. Where did Rama live? Again, anyone know where Rama lived? Ayodhya, right? And Ayodhya in sort of northern India. But the second last question, I want you to read that and ponder for a second. There are many estimates. Some of them going back to millions of years. Millions of years. And even there are these various 1 million years ago and 28 million years ago and so on and so forth. Okay? And more crazy the estimate, more confident people feel about it. Yeah? Okay. Then there is the other side. They also feel extremely confident. Like 150 BC. You go to Columbia University, you know, Sheldon Pollock. You know, it says 150 BCE. Right? 300 BCE. And you ask him, why do you say that? There is a YouTube clip on that. He says, because I can. Okay? That is sufficient evidence if you are at Columbia University, you know, as far as you see. So let's see. So this is the evidence, this is the samshaya that we have. Now suppose if we all agree on a certain date, whether it's a right or wrong doesn't matter. But if we agree, then there is nothing much to do, right? It's a lassi time. Let's go and have a lassi. There is no need for a samshaya. No need for a doubt. Doubt comes when there are more than one answer for that one question. That's when the doubt comes. That's why it's very healthy. And if you put efforts, you learn a lot. So let's go there. So as I said, many people have written about it, many kingdoms, all the way Southeast Asia, from India. Even the west part was very much all the way to Egypt, was influenced by Rama. Okay, if you go back like 4,000 years, 2000 BC, to area of Assyria and Turkey and Mitanni civilizations, and if you see from the clay tablets, some of the names of those kings, including Egyptian kings by the way, you will see they are following the names of the Ikshwaku dynasty. Okay, slightly modified, okay, but Vasuki and all of those are there. But many changes have taken place. Now, how do we remove this samshaya or the doubt? We have got a machine. It's a doubt clearing machine. From one side, you insert your doubt. Then you should know how to operate the machine. If you have got the right ingredients, and if you are lucky, you can pull out the answer. That machine is known as the logic of scientific method in modern times. How many of you have heard the name of Sir Karl Popper? Huh? Okay, 1, 2, okay. Otherwise I said I'm going to have an easy time, guys, here, okay? Yeah. So for example, Sir Karl Popper describes, okay, the scientific method or the logic of scientific method as what? Triangulation, the center triangle, of explanation, prediction, testing in the context of a theory and in the context of a background knowledge. And why do you propose the theory? To solve that problem. Toughest unsolved problem. Professor Wheeler of Princeton used to say, our job is to find, if you want to have a fulfilling life, find the toughest unsolved problem in any discipline of life, go solve it. You may be successful, you may not be successful, but you will have a good ride called life. Okay? So that's where we are going to insert this. So now, where does this come from? Of course, it can come from independent ways. In the Indian Darshana Shastras, and afterwards, if you get time, do spend time on this. There is one slide on Darshana Shastra, very beautiful. there is called Nyaya Darshana Shastra. And it mentions exactly the Sanskrit words. And those of you who cannot read Nagari, the stuff that you cannot read is from that Nyaya Darshana. Okay, it says Pratyaksha, Anumana, Upamana, Shabda, Pramanani. In just that one line, it covered this whole doubt clearing machine. Okay, let's go use this machine. Those of you who find this confusing, think of a tripod, like a side table. What do you need? You need a surface to hold something. Think of this, what you need to hold is, this is your problem, like a cup and a saucer, whatnot, and you want to hold it. So this is your theory. How do you test this theory? Using the 3 legs, explanation, prediction, testing. And then of course you need some base to hold that. Let's get into the subject, dating of Ramayana first. To propose a theory or any theory, and when I say theory, I'm not talking of the theory, the way the word is used in humanities. Many times, not always, but many times it is used in the sense of opinion. He has a theory, she has a theory, and so on. And nothing wrong with that. Number of you who know Richard Feynman, he says, how does it all begin? On YouTube, there is a 1-minute clip. He says it starts with a guess. You have a problem, you want to solve it, you take a guess. But once you take a guess, it leads to prediction. And then now you have to find the evidence and see if it matches with the prediction. That's how the business is, right? The theory must be universal. Evidence must be all relevant. Objective testability is to see reproducibility, repeatability, which is to say, the way I do it, if you follow the same method, if you agree on the other aspects, you should be able to see the same answer. In the lab, right, titration you do multiple times, chemical titration, repeatability, reproducibility. And logical inference, are you drawing the inferences in the right way? And the background knowledge has to be consistent and undisputed. Now you can question anything in the background knowledge too, by the way, but not at the same time. So if you have some objection to the background knowledge, we should stop, not worry about the dating of Ramayana. Whatever that issue is, that's the issue we should debate first, and decide and move on, okay? So that's just a quick thing. All right, now I'm going to say we are going to build this on a radical basis. It's not actually radical, it's a common sense. So why do I say we are going to build this on a radical basis? If you are familiar how people are trying to figure this dating of Ramayana from millions of years to 150 BCE, then you will realize this is a radical solution, what I'm going to say. My first rule of the game here I'm going to say is, guys, for heaven's sake, if you are trying to determine the dating of Valmiki Ramayana or Ramayana, Valmiki Ramayana is the original text, for heaven's sake, stick to Valmiki Ramayana. This doesn't stop you from going to other texts, anything that will help you about Ramayana, but don't start somewhere else. And in Hindi word is a jugad, those of you understand, trying to somehow figure it out. Don't do that. Stick to Ramayana. It's super rich in empirical evidence, empirical in the sense of something we can objectively test. 500 plus astronomy observations, 100 plus geography references, and 50 plus, this is just a number I picked really, I haven't counted the last one. Multidisciplinary evidence, okay? So let's go through that. I'm going to begin with astronomy, of course. Number 2, the rule of the game. Use evidence sincerely. Now this is a tough one, because everyone feels he or she is sincere and everyone else is insincere. Well, that's where the objective testing comes handy, because everyone should be able to say relatively the same thing. Now, this is where I said the jugaad comes in picture. Sometimes people have a date in mind, like millions years or 150 or anything in between. So they start there and then try to look for evidence which will match. Again, I'm going to quote Karl Popper. He says, if you have a theory and you are convinced about it, and if you really look hard for the evidence to support it, more than likely you will find it. That's not a problem. Okay, but that's why this scientific method is very important. And then try to solve real problems, which is to say, not just Ramayana or dating of Ramayana, anything. If you are working on it, how many of you are working on master's or PhD here, on thesis-based, research-based? Okay, a lot of you. Maybe in the break I will ask you, what toughest problem you are trying to solve? Okay, you have to have a tough problem that you want to solve. At the end of it, if it is solved, this is going to be the benefit. Okay, something like this. So try to solve some real problems. Let's start with the first problem. Why are we here? we are celebrating the new year, of course, but also the birth of Rama. We are going to celebrate on 10th of April, just a few days from now. Now that happened, why? Because the Indian lunar month of Chaitra. Okay. Now what is the significance of that? Look at that white circle in the middle, that's the moon. No, I don't have a pointer here. But that's moon here. The orange-like thing is a sun. Okay, Earth is at the center, as seen from the Earth, and everyone is going around the Earth. Okay, so look at the position of the moon, and imagine that to be the full moon. It's near Nakshatra Chitra. If you stand on the Earth, look at the moon, and behind the moon in the sky, you're going to see the Nakshatra Chitra. The full moon of that lunar month is near Nakshatra Chitra. Therefore, we call that month Chaitra. Okay, in our time, this is 2022. Now when I say our times, it means our time plus minus 1,000 years, guys. In astronomy, everything changes, but very slowly. Okay, just like almost nothing moving, but they are actually moving. So in our times, what happens? The Vasanta, the Chaitra month comes during the spring season, okay, Vasanta Rutu. Now there are people who will say, even in the Ramayana times also, the Chaitra was during the spring season, okay? You'll find them on YouTube, you'll find them in the social media, fighting, WhatsApp groups and whatnot. If you see that, this is what you must accept. If you accept Chaitra, lunar month of Chaitra during a Vasanta, and that was the case in the Ramayana times, then you must accept the inference that comes out of it. Do you know what that inference is? Guys, Ramayana is happening now. Or maybe it happened 1,000 years ago, or maybe it will happen 1,000 years from now. That's the inference. You must accept that. Now, if how many of you understand the precession of the Earth's axis? Some of you, very good. Okay, others have to take it on a leap of faith. You have to trust me that I'm telling you the truth. Okay, I'm not twisting something. The Earth's axis, okay, with respect to the nakshatra, has a certain type of motion, and it takes like 26,000 years before it completes one full circle. Okay, precession of the Earth's axis, precession of equinoxes. If you don't trust me, afterwards go to Wikipedia, type precession of the equinoxes, precession of the Earth's axis. You'll find that. So either the Ramayana is happening now, or Ramayana was happening some 26,000 years ago. Or you have to go back another 26,000 years ago, another 26,000 years, but nothing in between. Now the people who claim that, I'm not telling their names, they don't accept either of this scenario. Okay, if they accept the latest one, then they will be, of course, will be defined who they are, right? And 26,000 years they don't accept, because in their mind, the civilization doesn't go any that far. I'm going to show you actually, but definitely not the Ramayana. Now, so this is where I took that as my first toughest unsolved problem. I said it's not happening now. And maybe it would have happened 26,000 years ago. But is there another scenario in between, meaning from us going backward? And when I did that, these are the descriptions here. Chaitram Sri Manayam Masa Punya Pushpita Kanana Yava Rajaya Ramasya Sarva Maivopakalpatam. Chaitram Sri Manayam Masa. This is the time of Rama's birth, but this is also the time when Rama went to Vanvas, finally went to the forest. He's saying this is the time of a beautiful Chaitra, where the forests are blooming with flowers. Okay? Or the other descriptions are Iti Brahmantam Uditam Pratyanandan Rupanupam Vrishtimantam Mahamegam Nardantam Ivavarena. Again, these are the times of a Chaitra where dark clouds are there in the sky and the peacocks are dancing. Now, those of you who are familiar with the tropical climate, they will know what the context is. It is the context of the rainy season, not early rainy season, late rainy season when everything is green and peacocks are dancing and so on. Okay. So if we have to find another time, but which is not now or not 26,000 years ago, the time we get is about 13th millennium BC, plus minus 1,000, 2,000 years. Okay. That is when it is the time of a Sharada season, pre-autumn season. So think of like a September-October time frame, okay, in an Indian context or even Georgia context. So that's one thing I said. So if I go with that first approximation, then just from that Chaitra references, it appears like Mahabharata happened some 14,000 years ago. But that is just only one reference. I mean, there are many, but it's about Chaitra, it's just a one reference, one set of reference. I said, is there anything else that I can find? There is another reference, okay? The sun sets on a Pushya. Pushya is a nakshatra, think of it like a zodiac point. it was setting during the autumn season. So sun was setting. So after the sunset, you could see that nakshatra, let's say, nakshatra Pushya, during the months of November and December of our times. Okay? Now, in our times, meaning now, if you look at it, do you know what you see? After sun sets in November, December, you will see Mula Nakshatra, for example. Now you see Pushya. This is the reference. Nivritta Akasha Shayana Pushyanita Himaruna. Since everyone understands Sanskrit, I will not bother translating that. Okay? So sun is setting on the Pushya. That takes you to around 13th millennium BC. Is there anything else? So now two references took me to around 14,000 years ago. When Vanara party is searching for Sita in the southern direction, finally they are frustrated. They are searching for Sita for a very long time. Okay? And now says, how are we going to do this? They started at the end of the Sharad, like a pre-autumn, like October, and now it is a time of now, like a February and March, and they still haven't found it. February, March of our times, I'm saying, okay? And now Angad is very frustrated. He says, Vayam Ashwa Vijay Masi Kala Sankhya Vyavastita Prastita Sopi Chadita Kimatah Kari Muktanam. Now this spring season has come, the month of Ashwin is here, even that is passing away. How are we going to find Sita? How are we going to accomplish our mission? What is it saying? The Ashwin Maas is during the spring season, exactly opposite of what is the story today. Okay? So remember, the total cycle of the Earth's precession axis is over 26,000 years. Approximately, if you go half, 13,000 years. That's how far back you have to go. Okay? So that's another reference. So we found 3 references so far. Now I'm going to quickly show you 6 references, including the other ones. Something very beautiful, again corroborated by many other Indian texts. So I showed you these 3 references, the cardinal points, spring equinox, fall equinox, and winter solstice, the Pushya Nakshatra. Ramayana describes the pole star of Ramayana times. Okay, the one at the top there, actually 2 pole stars, by the way. 2 brightest pole stars were the pole stars during Ramayana times. At the top, Brahma Rashi Vishuddhasya Shuddhasya Paramashya Archishmantah Prakashante Dhruvam Sarve Pradakshinam. If you can see that NCP written there, and next to that there is a bright star just below there, that is Vega, V-E-G-A. If you know, those of you who know the summer triangle, one of the key star of that. That is what is doing. Brahma Rashi Vishuddhasya, that is the pole star, and Saptarshis are going around. If you come to the south, it is saying unless you go to the end of southern portion of India and go to the Mahendra mountain, at the top of the mountain and start looking in the south, until then you will not able to see star canopus, or in Indian text Agastya. Why is that? Right now you can see Agastya from New Delhi. No problem. Again, because it has gone so far south, it has become a pole star in the south. That's the description you see there. What is the time for them becoming pole stars? Right now they are not the pole stars. The earliest time going backwards in time is 13th millennium BC, 12,000 BCE. Any statistics measure here? No? I'm going to have an easy evening, I guess. Okay, in statistics we use the term accuracy and precision. Accuracy is like, approximately there kind of thing, if you play with the dart game, and the precision is bullseye, right? Something like this, less variation. 12,000 BC approximately, or if you insist on accuracy, 12,048 BC. Okay, but that's not required, that much accuracy. All these references take you to 13 millennium BC. So what did it give us? It gave us approximate time period, say 10,000 BC to 14,000 BC, to look for the year of Ramayana, or the timing of Ramayana. Now let's get into the accuracy. From this 4,000 year period, how do we know that a specific year is the Rama's birth year, or a specific year Rama killed Ravana, a specific year Rama killed Rama killed Wali at the suggestion of Sugriva, and so on. Many went to the forest. This was the problem that bugged me for close to a year. And I was trying every single possible thing, including our daughter, who was like 6-year-old. I put her to work, child labor, okay, on the software, and I say, just keep on watching, and if you see a comet fly by, stop it and call daddy. Okay, so that's exactly what I used. She's going to more than likely join Georgia Tech this summer. Okay. But that's how we found it. When that reference comes, I'll show you. It's like I gave a chapter in my book, Needle in a Haystack. I was literally looking for a celestial needle. Because I was really stuck. After that 4,000 year period, I was not finding anything to narrow it down further. So I said, maybe that's what I'll write and done with it. Then child labor came handy, okay? So I did that. So I'll show you when it comes. But now, so far I used like 6 or 7 references. Now I'm going to use possibly 15 references. I'll show you here. Based on that, Rama Janma, I could figure it out, 29 November, 12,240 BC. Now this is a Julian calendar. So Gregorian calendar also shifts. If that was a news to you, surprise, surprise. Over a long period of time, it's also will shift. Okay, very small. But it's a pretty accurate tropical calendar. But if you go to Julian calendar, it shifts by 1 day every 128 years. And we are using a Julian calendar here, going back as a convention. So that 29 November is coming in the Sharad season, pre-autumn season. Like think of a September plus minus 1 year, 1 month. 21st September plus minus 1 month. But it has even the Julian calendar shifts. Then we can find the time exact to the day, by luck of course, because the evidence exists that can support. Just see the underline, Surya Angaraka Ravi. The sun and Mars are together. You can see the sun and Mars together for that time. No, that's easy. That's not difficult to do it. Ramayana says that was the same condition when Ram was born. That time also, as if, it doesn't say explicitly, but the sun and Mars were together, we can also figure that out. When Rama Lakshman meet Sumanta Guha, see this is a Arsha Kavya, this is a poetry. The history, Itihasa is written in a poetry. So they are using, what is that? I don't know the English words in poetry, but Alankar, okay? Like the different, interesting ways to put this. For example, here, when Rama and Lakshman met with Sumantra and Guha on the Chitrakoot, when they are in the forest, the description Valmiki gives is like they look like sun and moon together meeting with Shukra Brahaspati, which is Venus and a Jupiter. Okay, and you can also, I don't know if you can read it, but that is the Amavasya day, okay, the new moon day, sun and moon are together, and here on the right side you can see Venus and Jupiter are together. Okay, of course, how I figured the nail down the basic thing, the puzzle, the piece of the puzzle, I'll show you in the next page. But then going backward, I tried to decide the dates for the other events of Ramayana. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, many more other events. Let's see if I need to mention something. Okay, that's fine. Look at that first picture there. I don't know if you can see from a distance, but there is a small comet there. Okay, if you can see on this first picture, just next to that line, along that line. That is that comet, and Lakshman is describing it. As they leave for Kishkinda, Lakshmana is describing that particular comet. Nairuttam nairuttanam cha nakshatram pidiyate moolam moolavatas prishtam dupyate dhumaketuna. That Dhumaketu is a comet and it is seen near nakshatra Moola. Okay, so this is what I had put my 6-year-old to trace and go find one. And there are hundreds of comets, 200, 300 comets. So they are going here and there, just find during that time period. That was my needle in a haystack, and that really allowed me to nail down these particular dates afterwards. Okay, otherwise it was a very tough job. Even within 4,000 years, that was fine, but finding a specific date, and just we move on the date for Ravanavada and killing of Ravana, you can find it. What I just showed you, I didn't show you all the references. I showed you possibly 20. There are 350 references. They will go like this, and I don't want to bore you. Okay, so then you can read my book. It also works very well if you have a sleeping problem. Just the night time you start reading and you get a good night's sleep very fast. 350. But as if those were not enough, there are 225 plus specific references to seasons. Like something is happening, and you say, oh boy, this is so hot. All the flowers have gone, or oh my God, how much is this rain falling, So then we know it's a heavy rainy season, monsoon rainy season. There are 225 plus specific seasonal references in Valmiki Ramayana. And some people who are so lazy to actually read Ramayana, they say, why don't you send me those references? I said, you lazy? I will never do that. I will show it in my presentation, but I'll show it in such a way that you cannot read it. Okay? Alright, but they actually go from each first kanda all the way to the seventh kanda, all Uttara kanda. These all will take you to 13th millennium BC. Okay, especially when you start looking at the dates and the specific events of Rama's time. Now, what is the beauty of a scientific theory? Like after masters, those who are doing masters, what you might do? You might do different things, but one possible thing is PhD. If you do PhD, one possible thing you might do is postdoc. Okay? The theory, if it's successful, revolutionary theory especially, the game is not over. You solve that problem, however, it leads to complex problems of newer complexity, higher complexity. In fact, that is the litmus test of a revolutionary theory. Okay, from Ptolemy to Copernicus, once Copernicus said instead of Earth is at the center, Sun is at the center, do you think the problem was over? No, the nightmare continues in our times. Yeah, after Einstein, quantum mechanics, that is all due to the Ptolemy-Copernicus thing, by the way, guys. Okay, so after that, Kepler comes, Tycho Brahe comes, Galileo comes and says something, Newton comes, Maxwell comes, Lagrange comes. It just goes on. Okay, something like this. Now, is it happening? Theory should be able to predict new problems, but of higher complexity. I'm going to take a change of pace and say, based on astronomy, I gave you a flavor as to how you can decide it's approximately 13th millennium BC. There are specific dates for Ramayana. I showed some. The whole list is there in my book or on my blog and many 500 plus videos. But let me take you something, some of the questions that people ask, and some of you who came here and told me there is a hot discussion going on in a WhatsApp or some private discussion group, and now people are asking. Now, when you give 500 plus lectures, you start predicting the questions. You know, if you're a professor, you don't have to think what new question is going to come. The person who asked the question says, you know what, I'm going to get this guy today with that question. Okay? Actually, many times the person opens the mouth and says, hold on, I'll tell you the answer to your question. Okay? That happens to anyone, I mean, not just me alone. Didn't Ramayana happen millions of years ago? And where does that come from? People with an Indian Yuga background, they have heard this. Okay? They have never seen it, they have never read it anywhere. It's a hearsay. But they will hear, you know what? The Kali Yuga is for 432,000 years. The Dwapar is twice that, 432,000 times 2, 864,000 years. 3 times is a Treta and 4 times is a Satya Yuga. Together 4.32 million years. And then some Purana says it happened in the 28th Dwapara or Treta or something. So therefore 22 million and so on and so forth. Okay? Didn't Ramayana happen millions of years ago? My point is, okay, I have no problem with that. I like those numbers, great numbers. But where is your evidence? Many times people don't understand what evidence is. Like they think reading somewhere in the book is evidence. Okay? Well, that can be a starting point. That's a shabda. Pratyaksha, anumana, upamana, shabda, pramanani. Yeah, you have to have evidence written somewhere, but you have to objectively test it. Let's give the answer to this. Fortunately, I'm changing gears from astronomy to the ground. So celestial, Galileo said celestial is equal to terrestrial. Okay, so what you do in the celestial, you can find on the terrestrial too, if you are lucky. In case of Ramayana, we are super lucky. So, 2 rivers I am showing, the great Saraswati, okay, the grand Saraswati river. It is flowing for many, many thousands of years before this. But 2 things happens, and just please pay attention there. So one there, what I'm showing in the first picture, is that Yamuna used to be part of Saraswati. Yamuna was a tributary of Saraswati, going back. But if you just start like 200 years, no. You have to go back 40,000 plus years. Okay, Yamuna was a tributary of Saraswati before 40,000 years, 40,000 BC. Now, why is this important for Ramayana? Because in Ramayana, multiple places, I'm just going to show you one place there, those Sanskrit verses there. Ramayana describes, Valmiki Ramayana describes Yamuna and Ganga meeting together. Okay? Rama, Lakshmana, Sita crossing Ganga, crossing Yamuna, the Prayag is the place where the 2 big rivers meet. Okay? So that is there. So that tells you, if you have to accept the multiple descriptions of Ganga, Yamuna in Ramayana, Ramayana happens sometime after 50,000 BC. Everyone follows the logic? Very important. Because these million years people who are so stuck there, they don't want to accept this logic. Okay?
Now there is another one, very interesting. I found this afterwards, after me determining the date. There is another river called Shatudri in the modern day called Satluj that kind of flows through Himachal Pradesh and then Punjab. When Bharat is crossing, Bharat is coming from Kekayar to Ayodhya, he is crossing it, there where you get the description. This great Shatudri says that river which flows in the west direction. Until 13,000 BC, the geology evidence tells us, multiple geological evidences, like 50 plus publications in last 30, 40 years around the world, by the way, tell us that Shatudri or Satluj only started flowing westward after 13,000 BC. So what does that tell you? Ramayana is not possible before 50,000. It's not possible before 13,000 BC too. Okay, based on that. And it's a very, very accurate type of research because look at the error, 13,000 BC plus minus 500. So the evidence is very, very precise. Okay. All right, so that's Saraswati lost Yamuna around 50,000 to 40,000 years ago. Saraswati lost Shatudri in 13,000. Shatudri started flowing westward. Another complex question. Have you heard this? Those of you who read Ramayana and 4 elephants with 4 tusks? Huh? He says, come on, okay, so I got you there. So yeah, river, fine, thank you, I buy that. What about these elephants-like creatures with 4 creatures? On top of it, they're guarding the Pushpak Viman. They're guarding the Pushpak aeroplane. Yeah, so now show me the Pushpak and show me the elephant with 4 tusks. Then I may consider Ramayana. No? So elephants with 4 tusks, and you kidding me, right? That's the typical reaction. And then some experts will also tell you that these 4 tusk-like elephants did exist, but they were millions of years ago, 9 millions of years ago. In fact, some people use that logic to say, look, Ramayana happened 9 million years ago. Why? Here is the paper. The elephants with 4 tusks existed 9 million years ago. Well, human beings also existed 3 million years ago. Does that mean they are not there anymore? No. We are going to look at the evidence. Actually, there is a worldwide evidence. Just on the top of that Gompo There there, if you see the world map, everywhere you see the mark or a dot or everywhere. Those are the places where these mammoths are found. Specific mammoths, Stockton, there are many varieties, Gompo There with 3 tusks, 4 tusks, and so on. But more important, they existed in the fossil record, so we know that they were actually walking the earth until 9,000 BC. How many of you know the Quaternary Extinction that happened around 11,000 BC? Some of you, if you look at the comet hitting North America, and if you read that research, you know, so significant flora and fauna was lost around 11,000 BC, that time frame. Younger Dryas, how many of you have heard the term Younger Dryas? No? Okay, easy audience, all right, okay. So that 9,000 BC, and our Ramayana is before that. Ramayana is before that. So yes, Ramayana times looking at 4-tusked elephant is not a surprise, guys. It corroborates that, yeah, that's possible, actually it supports it. Now, we talked about elephants. Now, were there humans in India or in the world? You know, you'll be surprised. But the next question, were they civilized? And then now we get into Wikipedia, the definition of civilization and so on and so forth. Let's look at some of the indicators. What if I tell you that now we have evidence, and this is not surprising to people who are working in this space for a long time. We have evidence of a sophisticated ports. Just to give an example so that people are comfortable, the kind of sophistication that you might have seen in Rome and Greece, say 2,000 years ago. And we know that the world trade was going on everywhere, okay? Sophisticated ports in India, this is Pumpuhar, Tamil Nadu. Anyone from Tamil Nadu here? Or original? Yeah. Pumpuhar, okay? A rectangle place from Rameshwaram come up and goes like this, 90 degree. Pumpuhar going back to 16,000 plus. Very important to know, okay? So up to 16,000, very sure. Going back, we know they're sophisticated ports, but even going further back, okay? We have that. Were there, humans, same question, were they civilized? Genetics. Now genetics, any geneticist? Biomolecular, okay. So we can have a question answer, I suppose, okay? Now, have you seen this picture before? This is Wright from Harvard,
I have not.
No? Okay. So we have a tracing of the Andaman Nicobar, that gene, for example, which is an Indian gene there, Vedas of Sri Lanka and whatnot, that gene being traced all the way to Latin America. Okay? So just the genetics. So we talked about the rivers, we talked about paleontology, now we are in genetics or archaeogenetics. Something interesting. There is the evidence, and this is just a conservative date, but presence of human beings in South America, at least, important word, as far as 33,000 BC. Okay, so think of that. But something interesting I'll show you. Were we advanced? Okay, so ports, yes. Human beings can always be there. Sugriva, in the same Valmiki Ramayana, when he sends the Vanara parties in 4 different directions, he gives them instructions how far you are going in the east direction. Actually, they did not go that far. But he's saying, if you are going in the east direction, these are the markers. Like driving direction we used to give. That art of giving a driving direction is lost. Right? In Atlanta, those of you who are from Atlanta, is always like, go up to the big chicken and then take a right turn. Right? I live in Marietta, so like always the instruction is go to the big chicken. I said, what is big chicken? Okay, the KFC with a big. So the instruction is lost. He's giving instruction in all 4 directions, and look what he's going to give us. My time is limited, but if you go to YouTube and type Sugriva's Atlas, just Sugriva's Atlas, you're going to find 2-hour-long talks, okay? And you can listen to that. He's showing actually what Sugriv describes 14,000 years ago is essentially in the east direction from India to Andes, no kidding. In the south direction, India to Antarctica. In the west direction, India to Alps. And in the north direction, India to Arctic. Because of time, I'm going to fast forward, like supersonic jet. I'm going to take you to Peru. Okay, the coast of Peru in South America. That is the structure. You might have seen it. It's called Candelabra of Andes. Okay. Now look at that structure. And again, everyone is expert in Sanskrit here. So you will see what a perfect description. Trishira Kanchanas Ketus Talas Tasya Mahatmana. Trishira, like a trident. Kanchana, golden. Ketu, flag. Or Tala Vruksha, like a palm tree. Like that. Stapita Parvata Syagre. Stapita, established, engraved. Parvata Syagre, at the surface of the mountain. Okay? Virajati Savedika. Like Veda Bhumi, when we do the Yajna Swaha, you have a rectangle and you're doing it. Look at the bottom, you can see the rectangle too. And I did not Photoshop this, guys. Okay? You can go and see that, it's there. Now something more interesting. Now when Spaniards went to Peru, they actually saw this structure. They asked the locals, like, hey, did you build this? They said, no, it was always there. Did your parents, grandpa did it? No. It was always there. Grandpa also said it was always there. Actually, if you go close by, it's like 3 feet down. The rock is engraved, the soil is engraved. They removed it, and that's how it is built. Ramayana tells us not only the description of it, but why it was built, who built it, and possibly when it was built. For that, you need to know Sanskrit. Purvasyadishi nirmanam krutam tat 3 dasheshware tatah parak e param hemamaya sriman udaya parvata. Ramayana is calling Andes Udaya Parvata, where the sun rises. That is the east. Now we call the Japan, like the International War Day line, right? That time it is there. That is where the east begins. It's the end of the direction there. Purvasya Dishi Nirmanam, to establish the east direction, like a compass, some reference point. It was created by 3 Dasheshwari, by Indra, okay, to mention this. And when was it created? Now some interpretations, but it was done during the Kruta Yuga, which is the Satya Yuga, okay. And all the way beyond this, you find the Udaya Parvata, the Andes. Let's go quickly in the south direction. He talks about the capital of Ayama. Antarctica is the capital of Ayama in the Ramayana times, okay? And he says, he describes it, but he says, you know what? I'm telling you, but don't bother going there. First thing, it's very difficult, treacherous to go there. Because of time, I'm not going into everything. Tamasa Avruta, it's a dark place, okay? It's difficult to go there, but if you go there, it's next to impossible to come back. Okay, so now think again, if you want to go there, that's what he's telling Avanara party. Let's quickly go in the west direction, thinking from India. Again, I'm going a bit fast. These are some of the locations he's describing, and they can be mapped with what we know today. He's calling Alps the Astagiri, where the sun settles. Okay, so that's, think of as India as a center and looking at both directions. The last one, going in the north direction, he describes all the way to the Arctic Sea, Uttara Payasam Nidhi, that is the North Sea, he's saying. And he says, Satu Desho Visuryo, the place is like devoid of a sun. Now this is to be taken in a poetic way, for a long time there is no sun, especially in the winter. But, Api, however, the place, even when sun is not there, it's lighted. Okay? That's the Aurora Borealis, and that's something you are possibly is referring to that. He doesn't say Aurora Borealis, okay? Right. Now, but wasn't there ice age? Everything was dead, 14,000 years ago, like Holocene, the Pleistocene, and before that the ice age and so on. India, people in Chennai, like I said, how many of you are from Tamil Nadu? Chennai people shiver. The researchers in Chennai shiver. Oh, 14,000. Everyone was shivering. No. Okay? No, that wasn't the case. Now, yes, there was ice. If you look at Norway, Sweden, UK, parts of Germany, Russia, Ukraine and Russia, everyone these days know where the Ukraine is, right? Okay, so that areas is under ice, thick glacier. However, those dark green areas, those are forest guys. Okay, and then India is not shown in that picture, but if you come to this 14,000 BC, very much the same time, if you look at the India picture and look at the description there are forests, there are grasslands and so on during that time. Beautiful weather. Much more beautiful than what it is today in India. Very hot, right? Quickly, almost done. Was there a culture or agriculture in 13? That is another archaeologist, Thank God we don't have archaeologists today. It's like, what about agriculture? Because what is the typical theory? It started somewhere in the Levant, right? Mesopotamia, and somewhere 5,000, 6,000 years ago, spread around the world. Utter nonsense. Utter nonsense. Okay. Was there a culture of agriculture in the BC? Yes, of course, India. Everyone knows the story of Sita, how she was found. Okay, in that. But that is a story. But where is the evidence? Actually, India has evidence. I'm going to show you in a minute. But before that, they say, so are you saying 13 millennium BC, this Rama is happening in India, but nothing else around the world? Because everyone is freezing, apparently. Right? I'm going to show you. Well, if you go to the Mediterranean, this is Israel, modern day Israel timeline. Okay? Natufian culture, how many of you have heard that? Goes back to 15,000, 11,500. So when the actual evidence clashes, okay, with people's perception or people's own dogma, that's the kind of nonsensical comments they write. So I pulled one comment like this. They say the culture was unusual in that it supported a sedentary or a semi-sedentary population even before the introduction of agriculture. You cannot have a sedentary lifestyle without agriculture. But how come these people are writing this when they see evidence like this? This is from Natufian. Okay, think of Syria, Jordan, Israel area. If you see this, now I grew up in an Indian village. Okay, right now you go to my Indian village, you're going to find everything this, and this is agriculture-based village. It tells you that it's agriculture related. Whether you actually harvested, just harvested or planted, that's a different issue. I'll show you the evidence for that in a minute. But yeah, well-established agriculture. Something interesting. The domestic mouse. Okay, those of you Indians, but also non-Indians, who think only one thing that India exports is IT consultants or IT experts. No, long time ago, we exported domestic mouse. This is a Bon Hami paper 2007. Look at the center, and from in all direction, everywhere, the domestic mouse is going around. Now, what's the big deal about domestic mouse? Domestic mouse is directly connected with agriculture. Okay, this is a domesticated mouse. Okay, this is not the ractus and the other varieties out there. It stays where the human beings are settled with the grain storage and so on. And it doesn't suddenly say, you know what, I'm taking a vacation in the Alps. No, it is traveling with the people who are migrating out, along with them, taking their culture, taking their civilization, taking agriculture, taking other things. Okay, that's what that migration is. And of course, afterwards, navigation and whatnot. That was 2007. This is a 2020 paper, okay, from the COVID times. This is the paper. Do you know what it is saying? Read the title. I'll just go fast through this. Reversal of human phylogeny. Homo left Africa as erectus, came back as sapiens sapiens. okay? I don't have a time. Fascinating paper, 2020, do read that paper, okay? Now, where is the center? Just from the picture. And thank God, the authors are not Indians. Okay? Yeah, where is the thing? It's going from there. The mouse, going back to mouse for a minute, you can see the mouse all the way to the east part of Mediterranean, 12,000 BC, the time of Ramayana, I'm saying, the domestic mouse, again connected with agriculture. That is exactly where we saw the Natufian culture, if you paid attention to this. I'll just go fast through this. Okay, what about the east direction? The Hamon culture of Japan, going back to 14,000 BC. Now, this is a Wikipedia business, by the way.